Hello everyone, welcome to another review. This time we're doing the first episode of the CW's The Black Lightning, or Black Lightning. There's no Um, let's get into it. So the plot is in a predominantly black, nondescript American town, or I guess city as they say in the show. Um, the sort of like crime is run rampant in the streets, and there's no real pushback from the local authorities. The main sort of uh, players in the crime circuit, if you can call it that, are a gang called the 100 Gang, which also appear in Booster Gold comics. Um, but yeah, so it follows a school principal. He runs Garfield High School, I believe. Yes, Garfield High. Um, his name is Jefferson Pierce, and essentially like he's this former gold medal winning Olympian, and he's also formerly a superhero called the Black Lightning because he's black and he shoots lightning. So yeah, that's essentially he's. This is 9 years after he stopped being Black Lightning. He has two daughters, both in high school. Uh, so let's get into the things I don't like. And then we'll sort of get into the things I do like, and we'll give it like the first episode an overall score, which I haven't actually decided yet, despite the fact that I have show notes up here on my monitor. All right, things I don't like. Oh yeah, the premature use of the Black Lightning powers. So there's a couple times throughout the show where, before he actually decides to become Black Lightning again, spoilers, where he like sort of loses control a little bit and like he freaks out and starts using his powers for just like stuff, just to screw around with stuff because he's angry. Like there's a bit where he blows up a police car and assaults two officers. I mean they were bad people, but still. Um, but yeah, I feel like there would have been more impact near the end of the episode, in the climax of the episode, when he decides to become Black Lightning again, if he had not used his powers previously in the show. So, like, we see some footage in like a convenience store or whatever of like the classic Black Lightning from the decade before, and using his powers, and that's fine. That's like the Ezra Miller's Flash in Justice League, or sorry, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Um, and you know that's I'm fine with that, but using his powers like in the show should have been saved for the climax because it would have had a bigger effect emotionally and it would have been a very cool moment, but it was diluted by the premature use of the Black Lightning abilities. um the costume is another thing I don't like. I really love the original Black Lightning costume from both the comics and the one very faithful to the comics from like when he was Black Lightning previously. I thought it looked really cool and it actually worked being translated from the books, which is something that you wouldn't expect given the aesthetic of the outfit. Um, so no, I don't like the costume he wears currently. Which brings me into my next thing I didn't like the secret tech genius. He's got like this friend he has who's white and he's like a tailor. He's got like a tailor shop, like in Kingsman. And in the in the basement of his tailor shop, he's got like a weird sort of like Tony Starkian, almost Bat Cave sort of Bruce Wayne cave of bullshit technology, and I don't buy like that this random tailor guy, in a universe where we don't see any other like super geniuses like Lex Luthor or anything. Um, I don't believe that he's just like a tailor. I don't. I would believe it if he was like some sort of mogul that built tech and stuff for the government and the military and whatnot. But he builds like this suit for Black Lightning, where like the eyes go dim or whatever to conceal his identity, even though the mask is only like that. It's like a domino mask, which is fine. Like that's simple enough to do. Sunglasses do that, but like he's got like this armor, and when you shoot a bullet at it, like if it's on the front of his body. I haven't seen him get shot in the arms or anything, but if you shoot like this sort of lightning area of his body, there's like two big streaks of lightning that come down, and they're like weird colors on different sides, and they don't really merge together very well. It looks kind of silly. Anyway, if you shoot a bullet, it gets trapped in like a force field, like a sort of, it's vibrates and just sort of stays in front of him, and he can pick up the bullet and like fling it away. And I think that's really, I think it's really dumb, because we weren't in a universe like this. Is not in the Flash, the Flareoverse with like Flash and Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow and stuff. Like, this is a very real, down to earth sort of universe. And then you break up this weird super technology, and it doesn't fit, and it doesn't make any sense. And I don't believe the circumstances through which he got the suit. The vague nature of the location is my next point. It's not like, this is more of a nitpicky thing, but I don't like, I like to know where everything happens. Like, I've got like a big map in my head of the DC Marvel universes. I like to know where all the cities are and stuff in relation to one another. And in the comics, Black Lightning takes place in like like a southern section of Metropolis called Suicide Slum. But it's not clear, like, maybe the town's called Garfield because the high school's called that, but the high school's called Garfield in the comics as well, despite the fact that it's in Metropolis. But yeah, I don't like, I like to know where everything is. It's more of a nitpick than anything. The next thing, however, I saved it for last because it's sort of like a big point. His daughter, at the end of it, spoilers, at the end of the episode, one of his daughters realizes that she has superpowers, which is fine, but this is something Black Lightning should have been prepared for because of the fact that he was born with his powers, and he had to be taught how to suppress them. And the reason, or there's no reason, like, his daughter should, like, or that he should not know his daughter has powers or whatever, because she's in like the bathroom and she's like a little bit stressed out, and then her hands start glowing, and then she explodes the sink. But that shouldn't have happened. That he should have been prepared for such an occurrence. They should know that their father's Black Lightning, and their father should know how to deal with their abilities, because if you have a metahuman and a metahuman has kids, so kids get powers as well. It's like comic book 101, like DC/Marvel 101. If you have a superpowered person and they have a kid, the kid also has superpowers. It just goes without saying. That's how that's how genetic makeup works. If you have traits, it's very likely that your kids are also going to obtain the traits from you. So I don't know why that's not, why that's sort of glossed over. It's at the very end of the episode. It's like the big cliffhanger, but it sort of bugs me that it was dealt with the way it was. Things I did like, the overall tone. I really like the overall tone. I sort of like the he's not in the ghetto himself, but like his whole city's sort of like this weird sort of like, not Mad Maxian, but it's sort of like an urban Mad Max. And I just sort of like the sort of, his house is very nice, but it's still in like a crap neighborhood, and everything's sort of like a risk, and it's very dangerous to go outside, no matter what social class you're in. I sort of like that sort of chaotic environment, because it sort of builds a lot of tension. It's got a lot of opportunity for action. The acting is another thing I liked. Well, I didn't love it. It was, I have in brackets, it was serviceable. And I put that there because I did like the acting overall, but one thing I didn't like is the guy who plays Black Lightning. He loses control a couple times, as I said, of his emotions, and his powers sort of flare up. But like, when he looks angry, like, I don't buy it. He's like he looks too friendly, if that makes any sense. Like, he's obviously like a large black man, but he's sort of like a friendly looking guy, and his angry face doesn't convince me whatsoever. He's got like, Arr! It's sort of like what I guess like when you're a kid or whatever, and like your parents pretend like that they're chasing you or whatever. It's that face. Like, it's sort of very, very artificial anger. Alright, cinematography and the visual effects are two things I've listed on things I like. It looks really good for a Netflix series budget. There's quite a bit of like electrical explosions and normal explosions and stuff, and even the first episode, it all looks really good, and all the sets are really good, and there's a lot of interesting sort of camera work done in the episode. Like you follow his punch, you're sort of like over his shoulder or over his elbow, so to speak, in a lot of instances. And there's a bit like where it's in the trailer where he sort of electrocutes a guy and he pulls him up. And he's like, "Oh yeah, that was a nice car you had," and he sort of slams him down, and you sort of like slam down with him, and it's really cool. Oh, commitment to the source material is another thing I like. Everything's sort of like as it is in the comics as far as I know. I've not read any Black Lightning extensively, but from what I understand, like everything's pretty well the same. Like he's a principal of a school called Garfield High School. You know, he his original like motivation for Black Lightning was an event to avenge his father or what have you, who was murdered by the 100, or like that variation of the 100 gang. And you know, we don't get to see all this sort of past stuff. We just see like the camera footage, but they allude to a lot of his past adventures. And I sort of like we don't see a lot of his actually being a superhero in the past, but we do see quite a bit of his like coming home all bloodied up and like pulling like not bullets out of himself, but like pulling like debris and stuff out of his body while he's in the shower and whatever. And it's sort of like a cool battered superhero deal. I kind of like in not necessarily a fan of this film, but 2003's Daredevil, where like Ben Affleck, he's all battered up all the time and he's bleeding, and Batman and stuff, he always comes home to Alfred with like a broken rib, you know, and like some fairly severe injuries going on. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned soon. Tomorrow I'll probably do another comic review, either of Captain Marvel with like another SJW Origins, or a classic comic. Anyway,